Welcome to Echoes of the Past, where history isn't just old, it's oddly fascinating.
From forgotten facts to bizarre backstories, we dig into the dusty corners of time so
So you
you don't
don't
have
have
to.
to. I'm Jody Lynn, your amateur historian and full time trivia hoarder.
And I'm Ephraim, here for the facts and the fun.
So let's rewind the clock and press play on the past. Of course, when we think of the men who built America, Andrew Carnegie stands out as the quintessential rags to riches story. Born in a small Scottish village in 1835, Carnegie immigrated with his family to the United States as a young boy, arriving in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a city on the cusp of industrial greatness. From working as a bobbin boy in a cotton factory at just 13 to mastering telegraphy and climbing the ranks at the Pennsylvania Railroad, Carnegie's journey was defined by relentless ambition and an eye for opportunity.
His true fortune came with steel, a metal that would build the railroads, bridges, and skyscrapers that shaped the new America. By adopting innovative methods like the Bessemer process and embracing vertical integration, Carnegie created an empire that made him one of the wealthiest men in history. But his legacy just isn't about industry, it's about philanthropy too. His famous Gospel of Wealth argued that rich have a responsibility to give back, and his donations built thousands of libraries, schools, and institutions still standing today.
However, Carnegie's rise was not without controversy. The Homestead Strike of 1892 revealed the harsh realities behind the gleaming steel empire, a violent labor conflict that highlighted the tension between industrial progress and workers' rights.
Today, we'll explore the life, the business, and the lasting impact of Andrew Carnegie, the Steel King who helped build modern America.
This is, of course, episode 2 of our multi parter. We'll have one more after this. So if you notice that last episode and this episode are a little bit shorter, that's why. We didn't want to put all of this in one and kind of make your head get too big, just from the mass amount of information that we're kind of putting out there. So let's begin. From humble beginnings to one of the richest men in history, Andrew Carnegie's story is the classic American dream, but one built on steel, sweat, and ambition. He was born in 1835 in Dunfermline, Scotland, into a poor weaver's family during the Industrial Revolution. They immigrated to the United States with his family in 1848, settling in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a booming industrial city. He started working as a bobbin boy in a cotton factory at age 13, earning $1.20 a week. His early work experiences instilled a relentless work ethic and a passion for self-improvement. His first job in America was as a telegraph messenger boy, where he taught himself to keep wanting to say it funny, telegraphy and business. Quickly promoted to telegraph operator and then to a superintendent at the Pennsylvania Railroad. This experience gave him key insight into industrial logistics and management.
Recognized the growing demand for steel in the mid 19th century, especially for railroads, bridges, and buildings. He invested in and later acquired the Keystone Bridge Company and Union Iron Mills. He revolutionized steel production by adopting and improving the Bessemer process, which allowed faster, cheaper steel manufacturing. Founded the Carnegie Steel Company in the 1870s, which became the largest steel producer in the world by the 1890s. Known for vertical integration, controlling raw materials, iron ore, coal, transportation, manufacturing, and distribution.
His philanthropy and the gospel of wealth was that he believed in the responsibility of the wealthy to give back to society, famously writing the essay The Gospel of Wealth in 1889. He donated more than $350 million during his lifetime, billions today, to fund libraries, education, peace initiatives, and cultural institutions. He built over 2,500 public libraries worldwide, funding Carnegie Mellon University and the Carnegie Foundation. Also, if you're up in that area where he was from, you can go to the Carnegie Museum, which is one of the most fascinating museums I have ever been to, and it will take you hours to get through everything. Uh, he, of course, didn't have it great the whole time. His steel empire was also marked by harsh working conditions and low wages. The Homestead Strike of 1892 became a pivotal and violent labor conflict, where Carnegie's manager Henry Clay Frick used strikebreakers and private security to crush union efforts. Though Carnegie was in Scotland during the strike, it strained his legacy and highlighted the tensions between capital and labor in the Gilded Age.
Uh, he sold Steel to J.P. Morgan in 1901 for $480 million, creating the first billion-dollar corporation, U.S. Steel. He died in 1919 as one of the richest and most influential figures of his era, remembered both as a ruthless industrialist and a visionary philanthropist who shaped modern America.
We've said that word so many times now, it's beginning to not be a word. Carnegie believed deeply that wealth was a trust to be used for the greater good. His 1889 essay laid out his philosophy that the rich had a moral obligation to redistribute their fortunes in ways that promoted the welfare and education of society. Unlike simple charity, Carnegie advocated for strategic giving that would empower individuals and communities to improve themselves. As we've said, he funded libraries worldwide, of course, the different institutions of learning. He also supported scientific research and cultural institutions like Carnegie Hall in New York City. And he focused on long lasting projects rather than temporary relief. His philanthropic legacy set a standard that many later industrialists like John D. Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan would follow. Carnegie wasn't just a businessman. He was a visionary innovator who revolutionized steel production and business practices. He embraced the Bessemer process, as we've talked about. This breakthrough was critical for the mass production of steel used in railroads, bridges, and buildings. Of course, Carnegie's beliefs shaped how he ran his empire and gave back to society. He was still a self-made man, and that did make society kind of look up on him until everything kind of started going to basically shit, and everybody started realizing that the steelworks were not, the best thing. And of course, you had the strikes and whatnot.
Switching over to J.P. Morgan, the master financier behind America's rise. Jean Pierpont Morgan was born on April 17th, 1837, into a wealthy New England family with a strong banking ties. His father, Junius Spencer Morgan, was a successful financier, and his family had connections to European banking circles. Morgan attended the English High School of Boston and later graduated from Harvard University in 1858. After Harvard, he worked briefly in Philadelphia before heading to Europe to gain experience in the family banking business. Early exposure to international finance helped Morgan develop a key understanding of global markets and the intricacies of credit, investment, and economic diplomacy. Returning to the U.S., Morgan joined his father's firm and eventually took control of what became J.P. Morgan & Co. in 1871. Morgan revolutionized investment banking in America by consolidating companies, coordinating financing, and stabilizing volatile industries. He was known for his calm and commanding presence, often brokering deals personally and using vast networks of connections to influence politicians, businessmen, and industrialists. Morgan recognized the efficiency and chaos in the rapidly expanding railroad industry and left efforts to consolidate numerous bankrupt or struggling railroads into larger, more efficient systems. He was instrumental in forming the Northern Securities Company in 1901, which combined major railroads under one trust, a move challenged and later dissolved by the Supreme Court under antitrust laws. His involvement went beyond railroads. He financed consolidations in steel, electricity, shipping, and other key institutes.
Morgan's most famous financial move was the acquisition of Carnegie Steel Company in 1901, which he merged with other steel companies to create the United States Steel Corporation, the world's first billion-dollar corporation. This deal represented the birth of modern corporate finance, using complex financial instruments, stock issuance, and trust structures to manage enormous enterprises. He pioneered the use of interlocking directorates, placing trusted associates on multiple boards to maintain control and coordination across companies. Of course, you had the Panic of 1907, which during the severe financial crisis, Morgan personally intervened to stabilize the U.S. economy. With no central bank in place, Morgan convened meetings with rival bankers and financiers, organized capital infusions, and coordinated rescue efforts for troubled banks and trust companies. His actions prevented a total financial collapse and underscored the power wielded by private financiers before the Federal Reserve was established in 1913.
Unlike Carnegie's public philanthropy, Morgan's giving was more private and focused heavily on the arts and cultural institutions. He amassed one of the greatest private art collections of his time, donating significant works to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Morgan Library and Museum, and others. Morgan was also a trustee and donor to educational institutes, but preferred to keep a low public profile regarding his charitable activities. Morgan's immense power earned him many critics who saw him as emblematic of monopoly capitalism and undue elite control over the economy. He was often portrayed as a symbol of the money trust, a group of small bankers controlling much of the nation's wealth. His role in the Northern Securities Trust brought him under government scrutiny and antitrust action. Despite his influence, Morgan was known for his disdain of politicians and refusal to seek public office.
Morgan's influence laid the foundation for modern Wall Street and the American corporate system. He helped transform the U.S. into an industrial and financial superpower, but also fueled debates about the balance between private wealth and public good. The institutions he built endure, and his name remains synonymous with power, wealth, and the rise of American finance. Let's see. J.P. Morgan and Andrew Carnegie were two of the most powerful men in America at the turn of the 20th century, each dominating different facets of industry, Carnegie in steel and Morgan in finance and banking. Their relationship was pivotal in shaping the modern American economy, making a new era of corporate power and consolidation.
In 1901, Carnegie, approaching retirement and eager to focus on philanthropy, decided to sell his steel empire. Morgan saw an opportunity to create the world's first billion-dollar corporation by merging Carnegie Steel with several other steel companies. The deal, worth around $480 million, equivalent to roughly $14 billion today, formed the United States Steel Corporation, an unprecedented financial and industrial milestone.
This merger marked the rise of the corporate trust, as we've said, where a handful of massive companies controlled large portions of the economy. Morgan's financial acumen and control over capital markets allowed for the complex financing and management of such a huge entity. Carnegie's steel innovations, combined with Morgan's financial muscle, accelerated industrial growth, infrastructure development, and urbanization across the country. The creation of the U.S. Steel symbolized the height of the Gilded Age and the transformation from fragmented industries to monopolies and trust. It set precedents for how business would be conducted in the 20th century, influencing everything from labor relations to government regulation. However, the concentration of power also intensified debates about corporate control, leading to antitrust movements and reforms.
Though Carnegie and Morgan shared mutual respect, their personalities differed. Carnegie was a self-made immigrant industrialist focused on innovation and philanthropy, while Morgan was an elite financier known for his influence behind the scenes. Their collaboration showed how industrial production and financial capital became inseparable forces driving American progress.
The partnership between Carnegie and Morgan reshaped the American economic landscape forever, creating a blueprint for modern corporate America. Their legacy is a complex mix of immense industrial achievement, financial innovation, and the challenges of concentrated power. Before we finish up, I would like to say that I missed saying this in the last episode, but you know how in New York there's that giant railway station?
Yeah.
The one with the big clock that never stops?
Yeah, the big subway station.
Yes. Do you know who built that?
No.
Vanderbilt is the one who built that. He wanted a central hub for basically all of New York to be able to come to. And so he had that built. And I've seen the pictures, and I'll post them on our Instagram. The pictures of when it was getting built look like they put a crater smack dab in the middle of New York City. Like you can see in the back of the picture that you can, like, everybody's just going along their business, but there's just this giant hole in the ground because, of course, the station does kind of go underground a little bit, kind of a lot. And it was one of the biggest industrial projects of its time. Hitting on these two, Carnegie has some bridges from his steel that were made that are still up and being used today. Like, they've never updated them or upgraded them because they're so well built that there's nothing wrong with them even today.
Yeah.
And I find that extremely impressive. The fact that it's steel, yes, but it's so well maintained and so well built that even though we've gone from little tiny Ford vehicles and horse-drawn carriages to now 18-wheelers and these massive vehicles that are now going over it, massive compared to theirs, and it's still working as well as it did then, that is so impressive to me.
Yeah. Well, when you design shit to last a long time instead of just shit that you can throw together and then you have to constantly repair
Like IKEA.
every 5 freaking years because you guys are because they're too cheap to fucking put out good items. That makes
Yep.
sense.
All right. So as we're wrapping up, here's a quick shout out to our sponsor, Dubby, the energy drink that fuels visionaries and builders alike. Just like Andrew Carnegie mastered steel and J.P. Morgan controlled the flow of capital, Dubby gives you clean, steady energy to power through your day. No jitters, no crash, just pure focus. Try the Japanese yuzu flavor, packed with 0 sugar, 0 calories, and 15 plus more delicious custom flavors to keep you sharp and unstoppable. Visit dubby.gg and use code echosofthepast for 10% off your order. Fuel your own empire with Dubby.
Before we close out today's episode, we just want to say a huge thank you to all of our listeners. Your support means the world to us, whether you're tuning in from your commute, working on a project, or just relaxing at home. If you want to reach out, share your own story, suggest episode topics, or inquire about sponsorship opportunities, please email us at echosofthepast.pod@gmail.com. We love hearing from you and can't wait to continue this journey through history together. Thanks for wandering through history with us on Echoes of the Past.
If you liked what you heard, subscribe, rate us, and tell that one friend who still quotes fun facts at parties.
And remember, history may repeat itself,
but we promise not to.
See you in the next Echo.